Serious things are happening all over the world. We have major systemic issues across the banking systems. We have billionaires running for the hills right now, building bunkers, buying up gold. And we're going to be talking about some of the things that you can be doing today to protect yourself for the trouble that's coming just over the horizon. I have an expert with me who has just recently appeared on the Mike Liddell show, Conservative Daily, and just was on The Sun, not the one in the sky, but the one here in America. So welcome, Jonathan Rose. And you guys have heard me talk about him most days. But what a lot of people don't realize is how big of a media presence he has. And you just were interviewed by The Sun about what's going on with billionaires buying up gold like there's no tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first and foremost, thanks for having me back on the show. It's always a pleasure talking to you and helping educating audiences on the importance of having a balanced portfolio with assets such as precious metals. And yeah, absolutely right. A big UK media outlet reached out to me, because I'm British. I'm sure that does help. But they were asking me about, clients that purchase gold from us. Now, we're here in Beverly Hills, California. Please don't hold that against me. But, we have some pretty high profile clientele that they were made aware of. And our clientele really is a broad demographic, because we have school teachers to people that are working in hospitals, nurses, doctors, all the way up to politicians, people in federal government, sports athletes. So that kind of perked the interest of some agents out there that kind of worked their way up to the journalists that started talking about, hey, these big billionaires are prepping, they're buying doomsday shelters. They're preparing for what happens next, and we also know that they're buying gold, and we've got an inkling of someone that actually helps people purchase gold, and obviously that's myself and Genesis Gold Group. And they're asking me, why are people purchasing gold? Why are these people building these bunkers? And obviously I wish I had a crystal ball. I can tell you their mindset. I couldn't say for sure, but one thing's for certain is they don't like what's coming towards us. And with all this uncertainty out there, we know, in fact, I have an intelligence officer that works for us, that purchases metals from us. And he was telling me the other day that the AT&T phone grid going down, that was actually a terrorist attack. Now, they're not going to promote this in the news, but, people are concerned about, it's an election year. Are the power grids going to go out? And, people are concerned about things such as civil war and doomsday situations. So these people that are the billionaires out there, the Sam Altman, the Zuckerbergs, they've been noted of buying sizable amounts of land and then building bunkers. In fact, I read an article on my way into work this morning. So is the CEO of Salesforce, which is a CRM software. They're buying bunkers. And why are they buying these bunkers? Well, are they predicting end times? Are they concerned about end times? Simple answer is yes. And you don't have to kind of turn on the television to kind of hear a news headline that pops up that another bank's collapsed, or banks holding this bad debt with commercial loans, all these skyscrapers that are empty, concerns about BRIC nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, Saudi Arabia has joined the mix, starting their own currency, backing it by gold. And where's that leave the US dollar? So the Western dominance is obviously over. This we already know. And if you don't realize this already, it's time to kind of wake up and kind of pull the head out of the sand and pay attention closely to what's happening. That doesn't necessarily mean run to the hills with your guns and your gold, even though it would help, right? But it does mean get an education and an understanding, because a lot of people have IRAs, they have 401ks, they have stock portfolios, they're tied to the market. And what's going to be the first domino that falls, Steve, that's really going to be a destructive wave where people could be financially wiped out? It's happened again. It's happened in the past in 2008. People are scared it's going to happen again. And when that happens, people feel a lot safer. Can we see this? Holding assets like this than risky paper with an IOU. So again, getting back to people asking me about doomsday shelters and prepping, obviously survival, food, gas, I always say lead, gold, a currency, something that you can barter with. There is a very high demand for coins, be it gold or silver. Obviously, I held up a kilo bar right here.
You're
Not to
so
say
British.
not to say everyone's buying. I am British, but there's also coins like this, an American Eagle. So people are looking, I would say, for small denomination coins, something fractional, something tradable. And that's why silver rounds are very good. They're kind of inexpensive right now, and I believe the price of gold and silver is going to skyrocket here in the next few years.
Well, it did just go up. I mean, in the past week, we saw gold just go up 4%, and we saw silver go up 4.5%. That's just in the past week. That sounds like it's like a tech bubble or something like that stock. It sounds like you're gambling on the market, but you're really just buying something as stable as I'll match your kilo gold with a kilo of silver. Not quite the same, but kilos all around. I'll tell people too, why do I buy kilo bars? It's because for some reason in America, the price per ounce is a little bit lower because it seems like Americans just kind of don't like kilos for some reason because they can't do the math. So it ends up working out to be a little bit cheaper per ounce than the ounces or the 100 ounces or the 10 ounces. So that's why I like them personally. But and so you can even do the kilo bars in IRAs, right?
In an IRA, absolutely. So when people call us here at Genesis Gold Group, they're really first and foremost getting an education, right? A lot of people say, well, I have this retirement plan, an IRA or 401k, can I roll it over? And the simple answer is yes, you can. And it's tax-free, tax-deferred, so there's no taxes on this. And then people want to move out of all these risky assets that they're currently in and be in something more secure. Now, when it's time to have what we call a metals consultation call, that's when we get into the nitty-gritty and we can talk about, well, is it coins? Is it bars? Is it gold? Is it silver? What's the allocation percentage there? But I have to say, just a comment, Steve, when you said gold's up 4%, I pull my hair out when people say to me, gold's up or gold's down, because reason being is gold and silver is a mid to long term hold. So I know before we went live, you're looking at your futures charts and contracts. So I know you like to play the market there a little bit. Now, when you're looking at futures charts, every minute counts, right? But with gold, it's more of an analogy where you don't wait to buy gold, you buy gold and wait. And essentially what gold is to me is it's a hedge, it's a store of value, and it's an umbrella for a rainy day. Hopefully the sun's shining and we don't need to pop the umbrella up, but if we do, we know that we're protected. And when we look at how the economy is facing during an election year, it's a very pivotal year. We saw a train derailment just the other week, and again,
here in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm very paranoid. All these trains all of a sudden from no derailments to all these derailments.
I just saw come across the wire that people are now calling for the CEO of Norfolk Southern or Suffolk, Norfolk, whatever that one is, that train company, the CEO, they're calling for him to resign over that train derailment. So pretty serious. I didn't see any major chemical spills. I think it was carrying like plastic BBs, but
that's what they tell us. That's what they tell us. Plastic BBs, asking for his resignation. I don't think he was driving the train, but anything for a little smokescreen action. So, train derailments, attacks on the power grids, local banks defaulting on their loans, election year, BRICS nations trying to oust the US dollar. All of this is uncertainty, and uncertainty can initially breed fear, and fear also leads to sell-offs in the market. When there's a sell-off in the market, that's when you need your umbrella for the rainy day. So again, if you have retirement accounts, an IRA or 401k, you want to make sure that that's diversified and protected, and that you're holding physical assets just like this, because this is a store of value, a real wealth. And if you just kind of go back in history, and you look like you'd be a history person, Steve. But if we went, from the 1930s till today, the purchasing power of a US dollar has declined over 98%, which is mind-boggling. And I always tell people, even if we went back into the year 1920, and we took a $20 note, which I won't have in my hand, but just imagine I have a $20 note here, and a 1 ounce gold coin. They would call this a $20 gold coin. In 1920, they were both worth the same. And in fact, they were both buy a man a brand new suit. They're worth the same back in the 20s. Now today, this $20 gold coin, the 1 ounce coin, is worth over $2,000. It would still buy a man a brand new suit, but that $20 bill today wouldn't even buy you a designer tie. So we can see how history has shown us a clear path that the value of the dollar has declined decade after decade, yet the price of gold hasn't just remained stable, it's kept pace with inflation. So take away from all the uncertainty in the world, just look at inflation alone. This is something that everybody should be holding on to. Now, we throw in the mix this punch list of all these problems that we're facing today. It makes an even stronger argument for why you should be diversified in holding assets such as gold and silver, which in my opinion is real currency, because when you look at the currency that we have today, when we decoupled from the dollar bills separately, and it wasn't being backed up by this anymore, we entered free trade. And free trade basically meant the printing presses started running in overtime, and we was printing. We're addicted to printing money. We can't help ourselves. This isn't going to change anytime soon. $34 trillion in debt today as we speak. In the next 10 years, it's going to skyrocket over something like 50 trillion. You throw in things like Medicare, Social Security, that money is running out. So you really kind of broad strokes, right? Look at the horizon and see all these problems that we're facing. It really does make sense to have real security with tangible wealth versus paper that could be printed and also devalued, which we've witnessed here since the 1930s.
Yeah, people are talking so much about how much housing has gone up in price. But one of the interesting things, I saw a graph where they showed it like since like the 1940s or something like that, the price of houses in gold hasn't actually gone up. I mean, and that's when you just kind of look at that and just like, what? Like, well, obviously houses are way more expensive than they used to be in dollars, but in gold, they're not. And like I said, when I said gold is up 4%, you're right. I misspoke. The dollar is down 4% is really the truth of the matter, because over the course of human history, gold and silver were the metals. In our Bible study, we're studying Daniel in Babylon, right? And they were using gold and silver back then, and we're still using gold in central banks, and banks back up their assets with gold. And apparently more and more billionaires are doing the same thing.
Yeah, it's like, Genesis 1:1 in the beginning, right? That's where everything starts. And even if you look at building the infrastructure of a solid portfolio, that base, the first thing you should be having is that base to build the foundation is an asset like gold, because that's the store of value right there. And I often am a little bit miffed, Steve, because I get interviewed a lot on major markets, and people and reporters, journalists, they say to me, Jonathan, why gold? Why now? Why is the metal so attractive? And I shake my head in disbelief, because gold has the longest track record of any asset out there. Like you mentioned, it mentions gold in the Bible multiple times. The three kings, what did they bring to Jesus? One of the presents was gold. So, gold has been with us since the dawn of civilization. Empires have been built on it, and they've also collapsed on it. But from a financial standpoint, as a currency, it has the longest track record out there. And instead of looking at the dollar being down 4%, which it is, or gold being up, I look at 5-year windows, 5 years for housing markets, 5 years for equities, 5 years for gold. 5-year gold, if you look at the chart, some people don't know this, but gold is up over 54%. Don't quote me the exact amount, but about 54%. Silver, closely behind in the 40s. So talking about a positive track record, if you understand that you want to hold on to metals for 4 or 5 years plus, and you look at a track record of every 4 to 5 year windows, it's been outstanding. And I think today we face more uncertainty than we've ever faced before. So I think the next 5 years is going to be a good telltale sign of where we're going to see the price of the yellow metal go.
Yeah, I think all of our crystal balls looking out 4 or 5 years, where's the United States going to be? Where's the United States government going to be? If we're adding $1 trillion in additional debt every 100 days right now, and that's probably just going to get ramped up. I mean, how are we going to afford World War III? Like, you look at the spending with the U.S. government before World War II, and then the spending once World War II got started. It was like multiple X's, like they multiplied the budget. I mean, so like, we're going to be talking about, uh, $20 trillion deficits in the opening years of World War III if we have a long war. I mean, like, we can't go spending like we are, because at some point, very, very soon, people are going to just stop loaning the government money. And so then it's just going to be just straight printing. And that's just going to make the dollar just go through the floor. And it's just so frustrating to see so many people acting like everything's normal, and that for the next 30 or 40 years, everything is going to be normal. And it's not. We know that for sure. I don't need a crystal ball to see that.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, and maybe some people would disagree with me wholeheartedly here, but myself personally, growing up in England, I grew up under the Maggie Thatcher years. And to me, she was one of the best prime ministers England has ever had. And she believed in a couple of things. She believed in a strong military, and she believed in closed borders. And she also believed in helping people in our own country first before helping other countries. Now, that's out the window now, and Ronald Reagan kind of shared very similar beliefs back then during those Thatcher Reagan years. Now today, we're sending aid to everyone. We're sending aid to Iran, we're sending aid to Ukraine, and I understand all of these countries need help, but we need help here in the US. There's schools that are underfunded. We've got teachers that aren't being paid enough. We've got emergency workers that are underpaid, infrastructures that are crumbling, and the money needs to be going to our country to help people that have fought so hard to keep their rights here as voting right members. So again, I'm not a politician. I can't change any of this, but what you can do, as you can see the cracks in the foundation here. And that's why when I say, well, the power of the West is over, I think that's true, because, that's why these other countries are banding together. They're creating their own currencies. They're trying to settle oil in non-US dollar asset, like in the yuan and in rupees and, other financial instruments that aren't tied to the US dollar. And ultimately, that's going to hurt the financial system over here. So whether it's banking, whether it's oil, whether it's infrastructure, these are the main problems that we're looking at. When you throw in some wild cards such as, supply chain issues, is there going to be another, swine flu, Spanish flu situation, attacks on power grids? It's a melting pot for a perfect storm. And again, you want to be prepared when that storm hits. You want to be proactive and not reactive. You don't buy the flood insurance before after the banks burst, right? You buy it beforehand. So again, getting back to your financial assets, understanding how you could be impacted is very important right now. So get an education, understand what your options are, because I'm a big believer that an informed investor is a better investor. So knowing your options is really going to kind of help create that path, because when you're talking about putting gold or silver in a retirement plan, we're talking about an IRA or 401k here. Most of these IRAs and 401k, Steve, they're pretty sizable. People have 70,000 plus, roughly, some less, some more, much more, in the millions in an IRA or 401k. It's a big decision. And if they decide that they're going to do it in precious metals such as gold, they've got to make sure that A, they're working with the right company, and B, that they're educated and not just thrown into this, because there's a few big decisions in life you're going to make. Meeting your life partner, right? Who you're going to build the future with, buying a house, that's also a big decision, a stressful one, and also rolling over your IRA or 401k. That's your life savings that you've worked hard to preserve. You want to make sure that you're doing the right thing and you're working with the right group of people. So, what we do here is educate people on what they have so they can make the decisions to know where they're going. And then that's really the security that we offer here at Genesis.
Well, I'm going to put you on the spot here, Jonathan. Don't squirm too much, okay?
Okay.
But what are some practical steps that people should be thinking about? Now, I don't want you to tell anyone what to do, right?
Mhm.
But practical steps that people should at least be considering in order to secure their financial, if they have some wealth, if they've had a little bit built up to get them through the retirement years or get them through bumps in the road that come up. What are some practical steps that they can take today, or they should at least be considering?
Well, obviously, if you're looking from a financial standpoint, then obviously, you want to make sure that you're prepared for whatever happens next. People say to me, well, I know I want to invest in gold. There's a few different ways you can invest in gold, right? There's obviously gold mining stocks, which has many variables to it because you're really investing in the management team and really is that company mining any gold? Again, kind of a toss up in the air. Then there's also gold ETFs, electronically traded funds. You're investing in the spot price of gold, but you're not actually owning the metal. And the third is what I recommend is to hold on to the physical asset itself. So, growing up in London, I worked on the London Metal Exchange and we traded base metals. I worked for Merrill Lynch, Morgan Stanley. I went on to consult to companies like HSBC, AIG. I helped financial advisors train their financial advisors over in Asia on learning how to invest in gold rather than gold jewelry, which they did back then in the early 2000s. And I've always been a big component of having something physical. And that, for me, comes from a couple of things. One, working on the base metals market in London, where they traded aluminum, zinc, copper, tin, lead. Even though I traded in those markets, I had a love for gold, and it probably stems from my grandfather giving me gold British sovereign coins that he used to let me play with as a kid. I still have those in a tin, by the way. And then working with one of the famed traders in London back then, Barry Gersh, I'll never forget him. And he always used to tell me that if you're ever going to invest in precious metals, always make sure it's in the tangible form. Don't invest in paper gold or ETFs. Hold on to something tangible. And that stuck with me and kind of solidified my mindset on having something you can hold on to. So, when I tell people how to protect themselves with precious metals, they do have options. But for me personally, if you're going to prepare your finances, amongst many other things that you should be preparing for as you get older, obviously, I like to diversify with the actual tangible asset. And whether you put that in an IRA, a 401k, a TSP, a thrifty plan, whatever your retirement plan looks like, learn if you can roll that over and put it into a tax deferred plan, or whether you want to hold on to it at home in a safe to deposit box or gun safe or just somewhere safe. They're the two options that I always recommend to people, that if you want to get exposure to the gold market, protect your finances from the unknown, get the education and find out what your options are.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. That's some real tangible things. Tax season, April 15th is coming up. If you want to add some more to a retirement account to get those tax benefits for 2023, the clock is ticking on that. But the big thing is look over your retirement accounts and see if you need to make a big shift with a portion or all of it with it. And Jonathan and his team would love to answer your questions. And you guys say nothing but great things about him and his team. So I can't highly recommend them enough, honestly. But any parting shots for you, Jonathan, here?
No, but I will say this: be proactive, not reactive. You're right. It's tax season. People that already have IRAs through you, now's time to actually add to those IRAs, those contribution limits. And if you're hearing this for the first time and you're like, wait a minute, I could put gold in an IRA. I believe there's a website that people can go to that when they come to us through you, we actually waive IRA fees. And that you probably have that website handy for me there, Steve.
Yeah, I can't put it right over your face, but I'm gonna kick you off the screen in just a second and put it up there for people.
Okay,
Yep.
well, we actually, for anyone that listens to the Steve Poplar Show, we waive their IRA setup fees, so that's a savings of quite a few $100s right there, and we appreciate people supporting you, and we always enjoy coming on and talking markets and talking gold.
All right. Thanks so much, Jonathan. Let me get that up on the screen here. Right up here is the Genesis Gold Group. link there. If you just tap on the screen there, you'll get a form that you can fill out to get some more information from them. If you want to check out another video from the channel, there's one right up there. And I also put it down in the pinned comment if you want to get in contact with them. If you do call them, make sure you mention this channel so you do get that waive of the IRA fees. Thanks so much for watching. Steve Poplar and Jonathan of the Poplar Report saying good night.